back here with True Victory on Victory One Wrestling. I'm here with Blackjack Phoenix, and this is the segment where we're gonna get to know everybody outside of the ring, because obviously on the show we get to learn about you inside the ring.
Yeah, you see me play a character all the time. Now you get to know the real me.
Well, not just me, everyone gets to know, which is I think, going to be fantastic.
Absolutely.
So let's start with growing up. How did you get into wrestling?
I always loved wrestling. I think the first match that I remember seeing involved the Soul Patrol, which is Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson, Dwayne Johnson's father. I remember just being so excited by that. Then other stars stuck out. Like my favorite wrestler at first was Sergeant Slaughter, and I got a cool Sergeant Slaughter story for you later if we get to that. But and then of course Hulkamania came along, and I bought into that just like every other kid in the country at the time.
I hear that.
And I really don't remember a time when I was not watching professional wrestling, and not just watching it. I mean, folks, I was obsessed. From age 5 on, I ate, drank, and slept. In kindergarten, the teacher asked what we were going to be when we grew up, and the people were like, policeman, a fireman, a princess, and I said I want to be a pro wrestler, and they laughed at me. Apparently, that was an obtainable dream at the time, but I think I did done okay.
I'd say so, absolutely.
I'm not The Rock, but I've traveled the world and got paid for it.
That's awesome. What about family? You got family?
As years go by, they drop off, but I've got my own kids. Been divorced.
Wow.
But I've got 2 children, a boy and a girl, Bradley, Holly, and I was raised. Funny fact: my parents actually had my sister and I when they were teenagers. My sister was born, and my mother was 15 years old. My father was 17. I came along 3 years later, so they were a little bit more seasoned by then. But I was actually raised by my grandparents, which is why people ask me why I listen to Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin all the time. I was raised by Italian immigrants who, they barely spoke English, and we listened to Frank Sinatra a lot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it explains a lot. People
does
get to know me.
explain a
They
lot.
wonder where my work ethic comes from. I was raised by, that old school generation is really what I was raised by.
Well, that's, you know what? I didn't expect any of that, honestly.
Nobody knows that.
Is your family supportive of your wrestling?
No.
No.
A lot of them are scared. Like my grandparents are still around. A lot of my grandfathers have passed, but my grandmothers are still around, crazy as ever, and they can't handle watching something like that, or the possibility of me getting hurt. My mother's seen it once, and that's it. My father's gone to see me wrestle. He's driven me a lot of places when I was younger. I started when I was 19, back in 1997, so I just aged myself. And, my father, he's been there from the smallest indie shows in Saskatchewan to driving me to my first WWE booking in Pittsburgh. So he's kind of been along for that ride. He's supportive. I guess he's the first person that turned it on for me when I was 5. So he better drive me around. He started it.
Yeah, right. What was that like, going to a WWE show, being backstage?
Well, the first one, it was Pittsburgh, and I was already in wrestling for a long time. I kind of missed my opportunities a lot. Probably, I think, in my opinion, due to immaturity at the time. I missed a lot of opportunities that way. I was more going town to town to see how many chicks I could bang as opposed to becoming a better wrestler. So I think I missed a lot of it. But when I was about 8 or 9 years into wrestling, I finally got a call. It was from Mike Bucci, who was in charge at the time at WWE. He called me up and said, "Can you be in Pittsburgh next Monday?" I'm like, "What do you think, Mike?" "Of course I will be in Pittsburgh next Monday for Raw." So, that was a surreal moment. Just getting the phone call alone was unbelievable. And then going there and just being a part of the locker room. And the good thing was I was trained by former champions. I was trained at Wahoo McDaniel School. So I was trained by Wahoo McDaniel. My uncle is Sweet Hansen, the big Sweet Hansen. And, guys were all over that school. Guys from Nikita Koloff was there a lot. And one of the guys that used to show up on the old NWA shows, Cougar J, he was there. And these guys are real, professional. They really taught me, the way we're all a fraternal brotherhood. When you go in there, you can't be starstruck by these guys. They're brothers of yours. So I went in there and I felt I fit in pretty well with everybody.
You ever thought about quitting?
Every day. I'm 40 years old. I'm broken down, but It's not really so much quitting because you never really quit. I retired a few years ago, quote unquote retired, but that was more of it's no longer my job to be a professional wrestler. Professional wrestling was my job, and I made a living at it for many years. And then when Holly was born, I was on a European tour. So I came back and I thought to myself, maybe these tours of Europe are not such a great idea when I have two children at home. So I kind of focused more on working from home and wrestling part-time. So that was my retirement, was simply just leaving full-time wrestling behind and focusing on other things and wrestling part-time.
A lot of guys don't follow that path, and their kids never get to see them. They're out on the road all the time, which you went the other way. Do you ever regret that decision? Do you think you should have stayed on the road, or do you think you made the right choice?
There's always a grass is greener on the other side scenario. I had it then when I was wrestling for a living. I thought the grass would be greener if I had, a day job, 9 to 5, came home, mowed the lawn, and bounced kids away for an hour. But then I would see planes taking off and know that that's, that's what I left behind. And I respect anybody who does it. I have great friends now who are on the road a lot, and they have small children at home. Just because I made that choice, which was for other reasons, personal reasons, I would never I would never put down somebody who does it because they're doing the job that we have. That's how we support our families, and they've been able to do it at a higher level and bring in more money. If you're not making any money at it, I feel it's foolish. But I have a good friend who's in WWE, and the money that you make, you're able to support that child in a way you can't, being out of that world. So, I have nothing but respect for the, parents on the road.
Okay, fair enough. Changing gears a little bit, what would you say is the biggest match you ever had?
I don't know. I mean, I've suffered a lot of concussions, Keith, so when it comes to specifics, you're not really going to get much of a specific answer, and that's no fault of anybody's except my own. But I think I've had some feuds that stick out in this boggled mind of memories from concussion syndrome. But, just wrestling guys like big time Bill Collier was a phenomenal talent. Just the matches I've had with him were unbelievable. I was well past my prime, and wrestling as if I was in my prime when I'd be in the ring with this guy. So things like that stick out. I've wrestled guys that I idolized as a child. I wrestled Jimmy Valiant, Brutus Beefcake. The list goes on and on. Brutus Beefcake was probably the reason I got into wrestling as a kid. He was one of my all-time favorites. And I got to wrestle him, and he cut a little bit of my hair off. So, things like that are cool, but I always got a bigger rush out of being able to get in the ring with a guy and having so much chemistry that you don't realize time has gone by. I once was told by a promoter in Canada, he gave myself and he's Luke Harper in the WWE now. He gave us, in a tag team match, he said, give us 20 minutes. I think we were out there for about 45 minutes. We had no idea that amount of time went by. It was just so much fun, just back and forth and bouncing around. We just had such a great time that we went well over our time, and I really didn't give a shit.
Fair enough. For anybody watching out there, what do you want to be remembered for? What's your legacy in wrestling?
I would like for people to look back and say, "Yeah, that guy entertained me," because that's why I'm here. That's why I got hurt and got all those concussions was, to entertain the fans and make money. We don't have much of that, but I would love for people to look back and say, "Hey, that guy was entertaining," or "He hit that guy so hard with the lariat, I watched his head fly off in the distance." That would be cool as well.
Fair enough. All right. Well, now we're going to get to, after getting to know you a little bit more, I'm going to try to do every time we do one of these, I'm going to go through kind of a lightning round. I'm going to give you two. Just the first one that pops into your head, you say. We're not going to get into why or anything. Just people watching can come to their own conclusion, but it'll just be a few different things wrestling related. I'll say two things. You tell me which one is the first one that you think is
Well, I hope
the
our
answer.
producer, director, Richie California, has his finger on the old bleep button, because you want me to do something off the top of my head.
All right.
I
Well, if
can't
you need a
guarantee
second
it's
as we
gonna come
do
out, folks.
them, that's all right. All
Oh,
right.
no,
So
I'll go along with it, but Richie better be quick on that bleep button. He's got lightning fingers.
all right, let's go. We got Raw or Nitro.
Raw.
Okay. Opening match or main event.
Doesn't matter.
ECW or Ring of Honor.
ECW.
Pay-per-view or the network.
I don't care.
Pinfall or submission.
Pinfall.
Cage match or ladder match.
Cage. I'm too old for ladder match.
Okay. Championships or fame.
All of the above.
Okay. Life of the party or all night on Xbox Live?
I don't even know what Xbox Live is. It sounds like a venereal disease.
All right, fair enough. Wrestler or sports entertainer?
Wrestler. Don't ever say that again.
Don't ever say that again. All right. Work or shoot?
Work.
Okay, and then the last question I got is not a this or that. It's just the last question is who's the greatest wrestler of all time?
Ooh. Aside from the obvious, where everybody says things like Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, you got to give Hulk Hogan the credit for making all the money and making wrestling what it was. And I feel one of the most left out men in that conversation all the time is my personal favorite, Kurt Hennig.
Oh yeah, Mr. Perfect. You can't go wrong with Mr.
But
Perfect.
nobody ever mentions him when they talk about the top people of all time.
That's true. I'll give you that.
We should do like a 30 or 40-minute segment of a round table where we just try to discuss who is the best of all time. What do you think
Absolutely.
about that?
I think that'd be fantastic.
Would you join him? Maybe we'll get
Oh,
that
man,
schmuck
I
Ken
would.
Pernicus and his tits out there.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can make it then.
There's this. Well, as you know, there's a couple other gentlemen. There's Rick Bickbach or whatever his name is. He does commentary with me. He's a big-time director from Hollywood. Maybe we can get that schmuck on the show too.
I'd be all about it.
Pernicus and his boobs and Schmick Bickbach.
We'd probably dedicate an entire episode to it, really.
I think that would be a really good episode, personally. Just get all of our opinions on that. Maybe we can call some of the other wrestlers in to do that too.
Absolutely, I think it'd be fantastic. Well,
Be a great idea.
I think that's about all the questions I have for you, Blackjack.
All right, great.
I appreciate you being in the first episode, being my first guest.
Appreciate the
Hopefully
show.
we'll,
I hope it takes off. I really like this type of segment.
I hope so too, because I really like wearing a suit.
That's right. It's hot. These lights, though, in the
It's very
Victory
hot.
One Wrestling Event Center. I'm going to go back over to the Sean Mooney Memorial Event Center to film something else with that Spartacus.
All right. Well,
Thank you so much, Keith.
thank you for joining me. Appreciate it, and we'll be back.